Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of Eating the Elephant, where we talk about eating the elephant that is Michael Recovery, one bite at a time. We're going to talk about insurance information and a few recovery tips, and we come to see you every Sunday and Wednesday. Sundays are at 4 o'clock and Wednesdays are at 8 p.m. So I hope you'll join us again. All of the episodes, we're into about episode 33 or 34, are all posted on our HUD Insurance Agency Facebook page. So if there's a particular topic that you've got a question about, flip back through those video posts and see if there's something that addresses your question. All of the episodes run between maybe 11, 12, and say as long as 14 or 15 minutes. So hopefully you'll be able to find the answers to your questions pretty quickly. If not, you're welcome to shoot me a private message or an email at trey@hudinsurance.com. And today we're going to talk about several things, but first I want to bring back our special guest. This is an elephant that was given to me, I guess sort of in recognition of this little video series, given to me by Pat Futrell, who's an adorable human being who I've known a very long time. And she lives in our neighborhood. On occasion she likes to embarrass me with various stories of my childhood. But I thought it was a very sweet thing, and for about 3 or 4 weeks I've been trying to come to the right name for this little guy. There was Harry Kane, which I thought was very clever. Michael, of course, has been bannered about, and I've had several other interesting suggestions. But I settled finally on the name Pilot, and Pilot is going to sound a little bit obscure. And most of you that look at this series don't know me very well personally, so I'm going to wait and I'm going to post the reasons for this on the Facebook page this afternoon after we're done. And for those of you that know my family, particularly those of you that knew my mother when she was alive, you'll probably appreciate the story, but I won't bring it out here for people that don't know us and don't know my family. Let's get right to some of the details. I'd like to talk a little bit first about my bugaboo this week, which is what I'm going to start calling yard sign contractors. I have to say that I'm getting a little fed up with all the yard signs that are being posted around. They're springing up again like dandelions. We had this problem right after the storm, and they popped up everywhere, from attorneys, public adjusters, from contractors of all stripes. And at the very beginning it was mostly tree crews and tarping crews. We've come to understand that a lot of those guys were among some of the worst players in the band. And I've come to think, I realize I'm painting with a very broad brush here, but people that are going to advertise by littering our community with yard signs as if they're dandelions, I don't think are maybe the people we need to support. I tend to believe that those are not the finest contractors in town, and there's much better ways to find them. I think getting some sort of personal reference from somebody you know that you find credible, I think, is obviously still the best way to do it. There's some, I would say, wobbly information on Facebook. Sometimes you can get really good information, and sometimes that information turns out to not be so credible, because it can be posted by people with an agenda or a profit motive. But I would say that if you're looking at a yard sign for a phone number and you're that desperate, that's probably not the contractor you want to hire. The exception I'll make for yard signs is if you have a contractor actually doing work at your home and they want to put a sign in your yard while they're busy. That seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do. My neighborhood doesn't allow it, although enforcement since the storm has pretty well fallen off. But people that just want to put stuff up on every street corner, I don't think we need to support them with our business. I want to mention another problem that's come up. It's called camping, and it's something that we've seen in prior storms. This was brought to my attention after Ivan hit Pensacola some years back, and it really has not been a problem for us up until now. Camping is a process by which generally it was a roofer, and that's not been a problem recently, but roofers will simply dump materials on your driveway, which sort of claims your job. Obviously it would be a roofer that's talked to you, that's made some sort of arrangements, but they will simply deliver materials and then disappear. And obviously there are certain contractors that are not, let's just say they're not the finest contractors, that will be a lot more concerned early on about signing up the maximum number of clients than with signing up the number of clients they can actually handle and getting the work done. I don't think this is the majority of contractors. I know that contractors have been taking a lot of heat on Facebook lately, and I have provided some defense for them. And we've got some really good ones in town, and we do have some snakes in the woodpile, and it's getting pretty difficult to tell those apart. So do your homework, as I always say. But be on the lookout for campers, people that simply want to drop materials. If you had a roofer, for instance, drop bundles of shingles in your driveway and you haven't heard from them in 2 weeks, then you have a problem, and you need to find a way to get in touch with that contractor one way or another. And if not, you need to warn them, possibly with a certified letter, that if they don't show up and they don't respond to your calls or emails or anything else, that you're going to hire another roofer and they can come pick up those materials at their leisure. They won't want to do that, of course, so chances are that's a good way to get them to call you back. We also have talked over several different episodes about how to fire people that you're not satisfied with. We've talked about firing your insurance company, firing your agent. Of course, I'm one of those. And we really haven't talked much about public adjusters and attorneys and how to fire them. I have certainly given some criticism where I felt like it was warranted, but now is the point, I think, in the process where people's frustration, excuse me, which may have early on been frustration with their insurance company and what they felt like was underpayment or poor attention, that frustration, when it was relieved, then turned toward contractors because they were having trouble getting people to answer calls, to show up when they said they would, to keep appointments, to give estimates when they were asked to do so. And I think now the frustration is beginning to turn from those contractors toward public adjusters, because public adjusters came in early on. They made a lot of promises about being able to very, very quickly get lots and lots of money to homeowners as a rule. Frankly, I don't think that's a realistic promise to make. While public adjusters, I think in general, do tend to get more money than people that represent themselves, they almost always extend the process, and they make that process much longer than it would be without a PA. So now we're into that. We're 5 months out, and some clients are reporting to me that they've not heard from their public adjuster in a number of weeks. And I got to tell you, I think that's unacceptable, just as it would be unacceptable for your insurance company to ghost you. I think anybody that doesn't provide a service that you hire them to provide, or that they promise you, if they don't provide that service, I think they need to be scalded. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about how you can unwind a public adjuster contract. A local attorney here who's in a Mardi Gras crew with me, it's kind of interesting to get legal advice when you're wearing a pirate costume. But I did get some really good advice, and Larry tells me that anybody, I think his quote was, "We're all free agents, we can be hired and fired at will." I think that's true. What I was concerned about is if you fired a public adjuster, you might still be obligated to pay the 10% fee, or maybe less if you've negotiated a lower fee. There is a concept, and I got to get on attorneys for a minute, because you guys like to do everything in Latin, and I just think that's a little silly. But fortunately, my daughter's really good at Latin, and she has explained to me that I can pronounce this quantum meruit, which is basically, if your public adjuster hasn't really done much for you, you can fire them. They are still entitled to collect a reasonable fee for services they have actually performed. Now, I'm aware that most of you, or many of you I assume, have a portal into your public adjuster, or you have some way of finding out what your public adjuster actually is doing for you. If you have a portal, I think you're in really good shape, because what that'll do is that'll let you go in and find out exactly what your public adjuster has been doing for you. And if you're seeing a whole lot of nothing, then frankly, that may not be the public adjuster for you. You may want to move on and try to do it yourself, or to hire another public adjuster or attorney. But if you go into your portal, or if you can find another way to access the information in your public adjuster's file, and there's not anything in there in the last 4 to 6 weeks, I don't understand why you have them. It doesn't seem like they're earning their money to me. So what I think you can do is you could approach them and say, "Look, this isn't working out. I need to be released from my contract." That can be done probably with a certified letter. They are entitled to bill you for their time. So if they've written up estimates, if they've hired other people such as an engineer, you'll need to pay that cost. Having said that, if you pay that cost for the engineer, then you're entitled to a copy of their report. And you may be able to turn that report over to your insurance company, and you may be able to have your insurance company pay that fee, reimburse you for that fee. I'm not saying it's absolutely going to happen, but insurance companies are more reasonable, I think, than sometimes give them credit for. So anyway, if you're considering this, I think you need to think long and hard about it. It is a contingency contract, and if your public adjuster has been working on your behalf unsuccessfully, if they put in time, I think they should get credit for that. And if you still decide to let them go, you have to know, frankly, you're going to owe them some money. Moving beyond that, I think what we have heard about is a process called shelving your claim, as in putting it up on a shelf. This was something that was told to me by two employees of a local public adjusting firm that is here locally for work, and what they told me is that their firm has taken on more than 1,000 claims. That is an eye-popping number to me, and I cannot imagine how one public adjusting firm, unless it was just massive, could handle that level of traffic. So their strategy, according to these two folks, was that they stick them on the shelf. The smaller claims in particular, I want to say less than $50,000 was the number they gave me, but I can't tell you that for sure. But a small claim is simply parked, and nothing is done on it. This is done on the theory that the firm knows that at some point the insurance company is going to have to pay the money anyway. The money that is due, the legal obligation of the insurance company, is still to pay the client the cost of repair of damages. So even without the PA's intervention, a certain number of these claims are going to get paid regardless. And frankly, what they'll do is they'll let that sit on the shelf, but they'll still get credit when the claim is paid, and they'll still get their fee. What that enables them to do is enables the limited staff that the public adjusting firm has to move forward with larger claims that are, frankly, more lucrative for them. So I'm not accusing anybody in particular of this. I haven't seen this in practice. I have heard from, like I said, two employees of a public adjusting firm. And so I think that you need to start asking some questions. If you have doubts about what's going on with your public adjusting firm, you need to make a phone call of your PA, and you need to have a very frank conversation with them. I was given, I was going to try to look for the, I'm sorry, I don't have the legal reference. The attorney that gave me this advice about how to get out of a contract, either with a public adjusting firm or an attorney, I will post the legal case that he gave me. I read it. It looks directly on point. It's a case from 1979. In this particular case, the client actually fired their attorney, who was on a 40% contingency case, unlike a public adjuster, which gets 10 in this case. And they were able to show that that the attorney had not really done much work, and they were able to reduce the fee to $950 for the work and the time they had already put in. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it today. Of course, we'll be back on Wednesday as usual. I want to leave you again with our 4-point plan. I want to remind you of it. Educate, advocate, escalate, and mediate. You need to educate yourself on this process and what happens with insurance, with permitting, with construction. We all need to learn new skills. You need to advocate, meaning you need to advocate for yourself with building officials, public adjusters, company adjusters, insurance companies, whoever. You need to sell yourself, and you need to fight for what is rightfully yours. When necessary, you need to escalate. You need to ask for a law enforcement official. You need to ask for a supervisor. You need to go to Tallahassee and find a regulator when necessary. And finally, if those 3 things don't work, then you need to mediate. You need to call the Department of Financial Services in Tallahassee and ask them to mediate your case on your behalf at no cost to you. We'll leave it there. Thank you as always. I hope it looks like we're going to have a nice week. I know yesterday was beautiful. Today's a little gray, but hopefully we'll get some more good weather this week. I hope you have a good week. I hope you have positive results, and we'll see you on Wednesday.